Hello everyone, Morris here. So today I want to highlight a particular strategy that has been recently coming up, and there has actually been quite a number of new strategy, and some are already covered by other people, right? For example, I'm looking at things like the top one, but also the third one. You can see with this sturdy fighter rune with this bug, whereas the rest is just purely shield sustain kind of thing. So this has definitely been covered by Chuck Fresco would be one. So do check out his video. But yeah, so this has been a pretty definitely a new kind of archetype that we've never seen in season 2 and before, just because now they've actually had buffed it enough such that the sturdy fighter rune is pretty strong. But today I'm actually going to talk about this one, which is the triple R, especially with the Miracle Leaf version of it, just because it's really been coming up quite a bit. Because otherwise, there are also, of course, the Winghorn stuff that you've seen before, but I think the Little Owl finally is getting some success. And the reason why I'm covering it today also is because I've also been playing quite a bit of it. So I just want to, just look at the Triple Owls team and how different versions works, and yeah, it's just to see how you can actually make a pretty good triple R team with the Miracle Leaf. Of course, there are also versions with the bird version as well, but today I'm just going to focus on the Miracle Leaf one. So first of all is that you do have to have, of course, a plant with triple owl. So that's the prerequisite, and ideally you want to have the tri-feather, and the back is the tough one actually, right, with the feather fan, I think. So this one, it's going to be pretty expensive if you want to get this particular Axie, but it is probably the most optimal one, and hence you can see the top is using exactly the same build because it's just the optimal in a way, at least for this mid with the Miracle Leaf. Okay, so the other thing in common is that you do have to have another plant with Leaf Cloak, which is the another epic rune that gives you basically leaves when it get hits basically. So this kind of fuels the leaf stack on the mid as well, and of course with the Miracle Leaf it basically will deal a lot of damage. So the idea, right, when you think about how to build a team, right, especially for things like Little Owl, is how do you get bonus damage basically, right? How do you get the bonus damage from previous season? It could be from the rage stuff as well, right? So that's why the endless anger rage with the beast in the mid with the triple R could be pretty strong. Of course, feather is a must as well. And now with the leaf, with this rune, Miracle Leaf with the leaf stacks also gives you a lot of bonus damage, and of course it goes very well with the little owl, just because the owls deal 6 hit, and each hit applies the bonus damage, and that's why it's so strong. And same for the feather fan as well. So that's why I think this is going to be a very strong build, and going into Mystic, I think it will also be very strong. So in terms of the rest, right, so you have actually for the top teams, you do, it's more of an aggro, so all these are very aggro in the sense that you do have the Innocent Lamb Cointail combo, right, for all of these. Pretty much all the top ones have, right? You can see I'm just going to scroll, and it's going to be pretty much at least one Cointail, but usually Innocent Lamb Cointail. Okay, so that's pretty much a must for the top, but I'm running a version without, and I'm of course not as high up, but still I think it's still kind of manageable. But still you can see most of the top players still using Innocent Lamb, and I think that's still probably the most optimal, just because you do want to be able to go fast. And let's say for the top team there's still more options, like for example the eyes here, I think it's called Lucas, is it, where it basically allows you to draw back another owl within the rotation. So that's another option that's pretty good, because you do want to play as many owls as possible, and of course get a lot of retain, get a lot of banish, so that you can basically just keep rotating little owls. So that is how most of the top team function. Of course, there are other teams. Actually, I'm playing a version where it's more sustained kind of thing. So instead of trying to just go through the deck as quickly as possible, mine is just trying to stay alive as quickly as possible while going through the deck rotation. But of course, I haven't really been grinding too much, so I'm still at maybe like top 1000-ish area, at this point. But yeah, so card draw is actually also pretty important. So you can see the top ones have a lot of card draw, right? So you can see the clear here, the nerdy here, and interestingly also the lotus to remove curse as well. So curse is actually going to be quite tough, just because it slows down your little owl draw. So that's another thing. And then I would say finally, okay, the third Axie that you should have, it should definitely have a taunt, a 4-turn taunt. So in most cases, and this actually is more to do with the cattail, so that you can actually heal up the mid. So because sometimes if with ant it's not as useful, if you just have a shield, just because you do want to keep your mid alive more. And against AOE, the shield, it can still do some, but I think having the heal could be better. Especially with the leaves healing you as well. So yeah, I think so usually you have the cattail with maybe even innocent lamb, so you can have basically 2 copies of it, because sometimes if the cattail is at the end of your draw, then you might not draw it fast enough, then that might be a problem, because you do want to keep all your Axies alive. So that is, I would say, how the gist of how you build a triple R team with a miracle leaf. And yeah, let's just get into, like, say, the top team and see how it actually plays out. Before that, actually, I might as well just scroll through and see what other things, right? So you can see that mostly it's just the leaves version. You do see the bird version sometimes, right? But I think, yes, the bird version, interestingly, actually paired up with the reptile with the tri-spike. So this is also actually going to be pretty good, because the tri-spike can deal a lot of damage as well, probably 150 damage or more at the end game. So yeah, so of course, like for the bird version, you do have the sacred feather so that you can survive for longer. So this is actually a pretty viable strategy as well. So of course, ultimately, like, play the version that you enjoy, and it's about play style. For me, I actually probably enjoy more of the sustain, like, kind of play style. So in that sense, I have my team to more sustain, more shield card, more heal card, and less of the, I don't have a innocent lamb, I don't have a cottontail. I've actually tried a cottontail version, didn't like it as much, but that's just my own play style, of course. Probably don't get to the top, but that's fine. I mean, ultimately, it is a game we just enjoy playing, and just be happy with wherever you're at. And yeah, so okay, let's just get into maybe the gameplay, and of course, before that, maybe just quickly look at the charms as well. So as I said, having the tape is pretty important, so especially for the eye in this case, right, so that you can draw your owls again at some point. So that's why that's important. And then this one is for the, okay, this one's interesting. The horn, I think, is the secret removal one. So it's, of course, it's always good to have more retain, so that then you get through your deck rotation faster. And then here, yes, you have a white sage with the mince. It's an AoE shield, so it's basically an AoE with this, which is pretty good. Of course, more banish stuff as well. And importantly, okay, so this is a must. If you play Feather Fan, you have to keep it so that you play at the moment that you want. So this is a must. And then you have 2 energy drink S, so that you do get to keep your feather stack, especially if you're running Feather Fan, because it does use up your feather stack. So you do need to keep your feather stack up quite a bit. And also, of course, going against things like, what was I thinking, the dispel stuff, right? So it could be the Orangda, but also the shield. That actually, the spell can be quite annoying. You might lose your feather stack if you don't have enough feathers, so this ensures that you will have enough feather stacks, that even if you get dispelled once, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, so it's just increase the consistency. So now actually there's more of the analysis, which I don't think I'll go through in too much detail, but you can have a look as well. But it's this quite interesting. So, like, you can see which kind of archetype it struggles the most. In this case, actually, this is a slightly different team that I think Eliza has been playing quite a bit, and then shifts to this team. And yeah, so of course, like the numbers are pretty small, just a few games, so that's why you can't really tell that much in that case. Yeah, but still a pretty useful tool in general. If you look at more teams, and then you can kind of work out what's a good matchup, what's a bad matchup. But of course, they're very high win rate, and that's why they're at the top. Okay, so in terms of battles, let's just see how it's been performing. So yeah, that's okay. Maybe let's look against Poison. And to be honest, playing against Poison, it should be a pretty easy matchup just because it is going to go pretty fast. But this is, I think, a good way of just going to look at how this team functions. Okay, let me pause it here and yeah, just quickly look at it again. Yeah, in case you didn't know what the cards are like. So this one is the remove secret one, which is actually very strong. Yeah, because it actually removes 2 secret, because I thought it was only 1, but removing 2 is very significant. Even though they're random, but 2 usually is enough, I would say. But of course there are scenarios where you want to, yeah, well, you might not remove the secret that you want, but still I think, yeah, this is very strong, especially against sustain. Yeah, so maybe I should actually shop for one that has Arco. But otherwise, yes, having the cleanse is also important. The rage could add up, but I don't think it's that much. I think it's more about the cleanse that's more important. Of course, yes, as I said, Lucas also very important to redraw little owls so you can play more owls within the same rotation, the same deck rotation. And then, yep, just the Cointel. I don't think the Sando does much, but it just goes with the other 5 cards that are basically important. I would say the main, the Cointel, Innocent Lamb for sure, Lucas also important, and then Arco good for sustain. And also poison, actually, yeah, because you do see the opponent has a lot of Scaly Spoon, so it dispels. But note that against poison is pretty good because it only has like a few secrets, doesn't run that many shield card, and so 1 Arco should be enough to remove all the secrets. Okay, and then a little owl, like yeah, this one not much to say. Feather Fan, very strong finisher. Yeah, so it just allows you to burst through the opponent. So my version doesn't run Feather Fans just purely because it is very expensive. This like optimal one is probably selling for like $200 or more, I would say, so it is pretty expensive. And finally, yes, you have the Garage Worm as well, which is actually pretty strong. And then Parasite, yeah, so these 2 are very disruptive. So, but the idea really is more about Cattail, Clear, Innocent Lamb, and then the other cards are mostly for really like disruption, which is good. So for example, Parasite, I think is very strong against basically mirror matchup where you can discard the owl and then it makes basically the opponent's owl a bit slower just because they might miss 1 owl in each rotation. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna go through the opponent. Yeah, it's just a standard, I would say, a poison build, and let's just go through and see how the owl stuff actually goes. And let me speed it up a bit as well so that you can see how it goes. So basically first is just to yeah, just to deal damage, of course stack up the feather stack, that's the important part. Yeah, opponent really know what they're doing as well, right, because the mid is the threat, so that's why like trying to sleep the mid so that this might be a tough turn. Yep, but this is where the, yeah, oh okay, so yeah, unfortunately didn't cleanse the right thing, so that's why it has to kind of waste 1 energy there because of the poison. So that's why when you play against poison, then the cleanse might not matter as much, but that's where the Lucas comes in, I think, because you know that this is 9 cards, so now it's 4 cards, right? So you can actually use the Lucas to redraw, right, and now it becomes 5 cards, and then basically I'm sure it redraws a little owl, so basically you can get an extra owl in basically in here. Oh, okay, interesting to actually, yeah, in a sense quite lucky to use the draw to draw into the owl because it's not guaranteed, and then if not, then you have to then play another rotation. Okay, and another interesting option actually was that didn't choose to not to use the cattail, which means opponent can actually put them to sleep, which is of course not ideal as well. So let's just see how this how they decide to play. Okay, so go for the, yep, cleanse, but of course, you know, usually you cleanse the poison, so that means the mid is still asleep, but there's no owls here, so that just means Yeah, there's not much to lose. Sure, okay, you kind of wasted one energy, but I think at this point it's still quite doable, but it's still quite close, I must say, just because the opponent really is putting a lot of pressure in the mid. But now with the taunt being played, then it's gonna be pretty rough, because like the owls are just being played, and then probably a cotton tail with the okay, they're just saving. Oh yeah, sure, because of the mavis. I forgot about that. Okay, interesting to just play a little play the extra energy, so just might as well do the damage, just because next turn should also get another energy. Oh, actually interesting that they only have one innocent, like they use the innocent lamb actually for something else, right? So actually they don't have an extra energy anymore, I think. Yeah, they probably used it as a confident, but I don't think this stats matters too much. But okay, so now just dealing a lot of damage. Interesting to skip the owls, because I thought the owls would actually do similar amount of damage, but okay, either way I think you can see that the damage is just so much. You don't really need to care about like healing or anything. Of course, as long as you heal the mid enough and you rotate your deck fast enough, then yeah, little owl would be enough. Okay, so yeah, just need to survive for another turn, because still has the taunt, which is very important. Unfortunately, the opponent doesn't really draw well, so yeah, I mean, shielding up doesn't mean much against owls, unfortunately. But you can see that actually the opponent is doing a very good job, because the number of stacks of leaves is actually not that high, just because yeah, the opponent dispelled quite a lot of it. But you do note that the feather is still there, but yeah, it's just enough to actually finish off. So this one is actually quite a bit closer than I thought, just because I would have thought yeah, it can actually, you know, go a bit faster. But the opponent did very well just to control the mid and the this little owl plants for the very early on, like the early games, the early turns. So but still, yeah, you can see how powerful it is. Once it gets going, the poison just doesn't have enough time, right? The little owl is just going too fast. Okay, let's look at another game, and should I? Yeah, I don't think I want to look against poison again, so maybe I should look at yeah, I guess a mirror is also not as interesting, so perhaps I should look at a yeah, okay, this is a good opportunity to also look at the new archetype as well, which is the sturdy fighter. So let's look at that one. Okay, obviously it's a slightly different team, but the idea is the same. It's just the back has switched up. But let me just look at the opponent's team, because it is pretty interesting. First, probably just look at the back first, because this is the key Axie in this kind of build, and you can see actually this is not the optimal already, just because the optimal one probably will have like more shield. But still, this is actually not bad, because okay, so first of all, sturdy fighter, what it does is that consumes 25% of the current shield on this Axie and deal 3 times the amount. And obviously these are the 3 key cards, right? So because these 3 cards, that the deal pure damage ones, really yeah, goes very well with this bonus, because you basically ignore opponent's shield. You might even take some shield if they have any. Yeah, so it's just a pretty strong combo. And Tiny Dino actually, yeah, can be a good finisher as well, and Little Piece also not bad. The only downside of this Axie is that if this is the only Axie standing, it doesn't have many ways of getting shield, which is the problem. But it does have Tiny Dino, which makes up for the lack of damage at the late game when it's like one-on-one. Okay, so of course then the other Axies are purely shield. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so this one actually has a square teeth as well, so there's another way in which you can deal damage. So meaning, let's say you play against maybe a lot of aquas that just snipe off your back, which is not easy to do because it has ends, right? So the front Axie has ends, so it does get taunt. But yeah, so, and also I guess allows you to go against, say, sustain or something, or even poison a lot better, just because square teeth allows you to also deal a lot of damage with all your shield cards, but otherwise mostly just shield, and a bit of card draw. And similarly, just shield. Kotaro is also pretty interesting, because for this build usually you would want to run the adaptive program, so to basically ramp up. In this case, the Kataro, of course, not the most optimal of build, but still I think it's not bad. Having the Tricky actually is pretty good because you can use the Tricky to turn into any Innocent Lamb, or in this case just this one. Yeah, but still can get another copy of the shield card, which is always good. Okay, and let's just see how this one plays out. Okay, so let me just speed it up as well, just because it is going to be a lot of shielding and so on. And oh, interesting to just play that card. Yeah, instead of keeping it, which I'm a bit surprised, but okay. Yep, so now it's just dealing damage. So this is the problem with like not as much shield, but for this actually archetype, for at least for this build, because it doesn't have a death program, so the shield doesn't matter as much, I think. Yeah, shielding doesn't really do much, I think, against this. But actually it does in this case with the little piece, but now, okay, opponent's really just, yep, you know, it's just dealing, you can see, right, a lot of shield at the back. And I think, okay, the other thing I didn't mention is the cocoon is also very important because it allows you to retain quite a lot of shield. Because it's at the back, and for the owl team, you can't really hit the back, so if you just shield a lot at the back, and then yeah, it's just gonna do a lot of damage just because of this shield. And then the problem with this is that yeah, the little owl's going a bit slow, can't even get through the front, never mind about the back, and the back is just going to keep on shielding up and retaining a lot of shield also. Yeah, I think this is it. Actually, pretty good combo also, right? Getting all these lumber shield. Problem is just that it might slow down the draw, as you can see. But yep, shield, just keep shielding the back. Yeah, it really just keep shielding, and then yep, deal pure damage. Yep. So yeah, just 2 hits, gone, front gone, and then yeah, this one probably not too necessary because of the shield, but still. Yeah, this is the sick combo here. The owls is really just a bit too slow. So this is, I guess, a good counter against the owl. Even though the owl is really doing a lot already, it is a race in that sense. Unfortunately, didn't get the, I guess, taunt, and so it really just allows you to hit the front. Yeah, it's GG. Like once the mid is gone, then it's just gone. So it's a bit unfortunate, didn't get the taunt, but even if we get the taunt, it probably might have gone down or just close enough, and it still has a lot of shield. Yeah, so this is a very fast game, and it's good to highlight how the sturdy fighter, the shield and cocoon stuff can work as well, and that's why it is at the top. Okay, so this is it for this episode, so thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video where I'll probably be talking about the other top teams, which are basically the the sturdy fighter. I'll go more in detail of how maybe you can build a team with a good sturdy fighter, and yeah, you can see a lot of shield, right, the timber stuff. Yeah, going to be pretty exciting, I think, for this season, at least for the epic era. Okay, so enjoy playing on the ladder, and I'll see you next time.